I'm sorry to say, but she has passed away. I had been prepared for this from the moment she was born. However, when the time for farewell actually arrived, it became painful emotionally. Just yesterday we were talking, and she was smiling at me. My daughter Sarah was diagnosed with childhood leukemia soon after she was born, and had been undergoing treatment ever since. Despite all efforts, we could not cure her. Today, she passed away. She was 3 years old. Doctor, thank you so much for everything. You really did everything possible to treat my daughter. I am truly, truly grateful. From the moment the doctor knew about my daughter's leukemia, he worked tirelessly to treat her. He never gave up hope that she might be cured, working desperately on her treatment. Initially, the doctor had informed us that it was a disease with a high mortality rate, and that she might pass away. Yet, her departure still came too soon. I cried loudly next to my daughter's body. Later, her body was placed in a coffin and sent to my parents' house. My in-laws and my own parents, who had come to the house because of my daughter's death, all cried as they looked at her coffin. I think Sarah had a hard time since she was born, but she fought hard, didn't she? Normally, she could have passed away even earlier, right? Yes, the doctor said it was tough finding a donor, and she might not make it past 3 years. Is that so? Then, she lived quite long, didn't she? Amid the somber atmosphere with all the relatives gathered, two people began a conversation that seemed to shatter the mournful mood. Long time no see, Howard. How have you been lately? I was worried since I haven't seen your face. Oh, Alyssa? Is that so? I thought I've been showing up at my parents' place quite often. What's with the sudden catch-up? Hey, don't start such conversations now. Do it later. These two had been chatting loudly and sometimes laughed out loud since the viewing. It was unavoidable given they had known each other since high school. But their overly familiar behavior was striking. In front of me. And the next day, as we arrived at the funeral hall and were arranging the funeral, these two were nowhere to be seen. Wondering what they were up to, I went to the back room, only to find my husband and sister in the midst of an affair. What are you doing here? On the day of my daughter's funeral, to think they were engaging in such an act, my anger surged. I quietly entered the room and locked the door with both of their clothes in hand. Should I throw these clothes away? Driven by rage, I threw their clothes out of a nearby window. It was raining heavily outside. Even if the clothes were found, they'd be too soiled to wear. Serves you right. Thinking this, I called my parents and in-laws to the front of the room to expose what was happening. I gathered both my own and my in-laws' parents in front of the door, determined to publicly shame the two. My name is Candace, and I have a twin sister. My sister and I were close, always playing together from childhood, and we shared similar thoughts. However, my sister was more amiable and charming, often more popular in class. We have the same face. So why is there such a difference in how much we're liked? I wonder why. It's about whether you have charm or not. You're often quite unfriendly, aren't you? Like Dad. My sister said this, but was it really true? Indeed, I am not good at communication and struggle to talk to people, whereas my sister can chat easily with others. She smiles a lot, has a good demeanor, and indeed fits the type that would be popular. But I couldn't help feeling there was another reason why she was so liked. But you know what? You're actually liked more than me, Candace. What do you mean? I don't know, but that's what all the guys say when they break up with me. They say they prefer Candace. What's that supposed to mean? Indeed, my sister was popular. Initially liked by everyone, she quickly made friends and started relationships. But they never lasted long. At the end of each relationship, they would say they preferred me. Apparently due to my sister's bad personality. Why does Alyssa always have to play pranks like that? It's unfair to Candace. Apologize. As children, I was more adored by our grandparents, which seemed to upset her. And she would often make me cry by hitting or tripping me. As we entered middle school, my sister suddenly became popular. However, as boyfriends began to drift away, they would say, "I prefer Candace," and she would become jealous and complain every time. Why do people like you even though you don't approach anyone? You're so gloomy, it's annoying. From this time, my sister started to see me as a rival and spoke to me less and less. Yet, she continued to make many boyfriends and flaunted herself. She looked down on me, saying she was prettier and had a bigger bust. Still, there was a time when I asked her for advice on confessions. In high school, I liked a classmate, Howard, and wondered how I might start a relationship with him. However, having been distant from boys until then, I didn't know what to do and reluctantly asked my sister for help. "I like Howard from our class, could you tell me how to approach him?" When I consulted her, my sister gave me an unfriendly look and dismissively said, "Figure it out yourself," and didn't offer any help. Maybe I chose the wrong person to ask for advice. What should I do now? Eventually, I never confessed my feelings in high school. And I thought that love had ended in unrequited affection. However, when I went to college, the person I had liked also attended the same university. And unexpectedly, we became close and naturally started dating. Let's move in together. We were college students at the time. And I was so happy when he suggested it that I decided to move in with him. And we lived together until graduation. Let's get married after we graduate from college. We promised that to each other, and 4 years later, I found out I was pregnant. Although we hadn't graduated yet, he proposed to me at that time. "I will continue to love you and the baby. Let's get married." 2 months after discovering the pregnancy, we got married on the day of our graduation ceremony. We continued to live in the same apartment where we had been living together. And a few months later, our child was born. However, soon after birth, the child was diagnosed with pediatric leukemia. And the doctors told us the child might not have long to live. She was just born. Isn't there anything we can do? There are treatments that can prolong life, but this disease has a high fatality rate. We will do our best. It might work out, so don't give up hope. That's what the doctor told me, and I hung on to hope for my child. There were times when it seemed hopeless as we couldn't find a donor. It might be difficult for her to live past 2 years. Yet, my daughter somehow managed to live another year and passed away at the age of 3. It was a premature death. But I convinced myself that it was the fate she was born with and bid her soul farewell. During my university days, my sister was working. Ever since Howard and I started living together in college, my sister began visiting our home frequently. Long time no see, Howard. How have you been? Oh, I thought you were Candace. It's been a long time, Alyssa. My sister always wore provocative clothes when she came to our apartment and tried to appeal to Howard. I hadn't been too concerned about her usual provocative attire, but she started wearing strong perfume every time she came, which made me suspicious of her intentions. "You always wear such provocative clothes, it's hard to know where to look, can you stop?" "Really, why do you always wear clothes like that?" "I can't help it, these are the only clothes I have, and I'm meeting my boyfriend after this." While saying this, my sister always flaunted her cleavage, wearing low-cut tops and short skirts, boldly sitting in front of Howard in a way that made him uncomfortable. Since middle school, I had disliked my sister's attitude and was vigilant. thinking she must be up to something, and I was determined to protect Howard. She's a bit too much. What does she want? At that time, Howard seemed indifferent to my sister's presence, which reassured me. However, I was wrong. Whether it was an act or not, I can't tell now. But Howard and my sister had started an affair around that time. A few months later, following the pregnancy, Howard proposed, and we got married soon after. I've decided to get married. My sister suddenly called to tell me that. Moreover, her partner was Ted, a friend who had been in the same baseball club as Howard. You're kidding, Alyssa is marrying Ted. Why? It was natural to be surprised since it was a marriage with a classmate. Moreover, this happened 6 months after we got married. Seeing how happy you looked, Candace, I thought I had to get married soon. I liked Ted from the baseball club, we were dating, and we just got married. I see, Alyssa liked Ted. At that moment, my husband's face seemed clouded. I didn't understand why he would be upset about my sister's marriage announcement. But that would become clear later. It's been a while since I last saw you, we haven't met since I got married. Really, when was the last time? I didn't expect to reunite like this. Now I'm your brother-in-law, so let's get along. Hey, you guys got married earlier than me, what about my position? Ryan had known us sisters and Ted since childhood and had met Howard in high school, becoming part of a close trio that often hung out together. Therefore, when these three reunited at my sister's wedding, they promised to hang out again, creating more opportunities for the three to meet. Consequently, my husband started going out frequently, often returning late at night, but always coming back smelling of perfume. Even though he was supposed to be out with friends, why do I smell perfume? This bothered me, so I confronted my husband. Howard, have you noticed a perfume smell recently? I sniffed his clothes and looked at him suspiciously, and he replied hastily. Ryan's been bringing his girlfriend around a lot recently, it's probably her perfume, isn't it? It smells like women's perfume, but it's a familiar scent, what is this smell? When I said that, my husband hurriedly left the room, quickly taking off his clothes. Who cares about the perfume smell, I'm going to take a shower. Saying that, my husband went to take a shower. From then on, I began to feel something suspicious was going on. Howard said he was going out to hang out with Ryan and Ted. But sometimes when I visit my parents' house, Ted is there, and Alyssa is often not around. Huh? Didn't Howard say he was going out to hang out with Ted and Ryan today? Why are you here at my parents' house? Huh? I haven't been told anything. And Alyssa isn't here either. What's that about? Isn't it suspicious? At that time, Ted and I began to suspect their behavior and started taking action to get to the heart of the matter. One day, during my daughter's funeral, the two of them suddenly disappeared, and I went out looking for them. That day, Ted had an unavoidable business trip and couldn't attend the funeral. And despite the situation, Alyssa attended the funeral in provocative clothing. Why don't you have any decent clothes? It's a funeral. Why are you wearing a suit that looks like a tight dress? Take it off right now, I'll lend you something. It's fine, I don't have any other clothes, and I didn't buy any morning clothes. Just let it go for today. Alyssa forcefully overruled my mother's opinion, but my mother was appalled by her behavior. From a young age, my sister had shown signs of being unreasonable. But my mother had given up by now and said, do whatever you want. She then threw in the towel with Alyssa. At that moment, I was certain. The perfume Alyssa was wearing was the same scent that Howard carried after hanging out with Ryan. I thought, maybe these two were having an affair. That suspicion had now turned into a solid assumption. And during the funeral arrangements, they disappeared somewhere. I had a vague idea of where the two might have gone. Candace thought those two are definitely doing something where they can't be found. And they think they're not caught. I'll definitely find them and confront them. I went to the men's restroom and another back room on the second floor. But they were nowhere to be found. Where could they have gone? When I went back to our family's back room to start searching again, I heard suspicious sounds coming from inside. Hey, you know I'm more attractive and better, right? Really, you're the best. You have bigger breasts and a better body than Candace. So, let's go further. Why don't we have a child together? That would be bad, it will be found out. It'll be fine, Ted is easy to fool, and Candace is too stupid to notice this. I heard such a conversation through the door of the back room. What are those two thinking? They're the worst. It seemed like they were about to start something, as I could hear the sound of clothes being removed from inside. I listened closely to the sounds inside, and I heard Alyssa's voice saying, "Let's move deeper in since it would be bad if our voices were heard." After a while, intense noises came from inside. The two had begun to focus on their actions, unconcerned about the loud voices leaking out. Are they stupid? It's completely audible, and it's disgusting. I quietly opened the door and checked inside. The two were indeed at the back of the room. Unaware of my presence, they continued their loud interactions. Stop it already, it's my daughter's funeral. I muttered quietly, picked up the clothes they had discarded near the entrance, and quietly left the room. My anger was rising over their actions. So I threw their clothes out of a nearby window and locked the door. Dad, Mom, could you come to the front of the back room? I have something to talk about. I informed my parents and in-laws to come to the front of the back room. My revenge was about to begin. Our parents and in-laws gathered at the back room, and the voices of Alyssa and Howard could be heard through the door, freezing the atmosphere. What's that? Are Alyssa and Howard in there? What are they doing? Howard, what is he doing? Despite the commotion starting outside the back room, the two were so caught up that they didn't notice. The voices grew louder, echoing throughout the building. Disgusted, both my father and father-in-law quietly unlocked the door, and then burst it open on the count of 3. Whoa! That scared me. Huh? Startled by the loud noise of the door bursting open, Howard and Alyssa jumped up in surprise. Naturally, they were completely naked, leaving them without any excuse for their behavior. As they frantically searched for their missing clothes, they wrapped themselves in curtains to hide their bodies. What are you doing? At your own child's funeral, how could you do such a thing? Both fathers, having overheard what Howard and Alyssa were doing, were furious and began to shout at them. They pulled their son and daughter from behind the curtains and made them kneel down on the spot. You do realize what you've done, right? What is the meaning of this? Do you think this is acceptable? After scolding them, both fathers nodded to each other, opened the window of the back room, and physically removed Howard and Alyssa from the building while they were still naked. Don't disturb the funeral, we're limited on time here. And we can't spare time to lecture people like you. Stay here and reflect on your actions. You can't go outside naked. Exactly, the funeral is the priority right now, not you. Be prepared for a serious scolding once the funeral is over. Unfortunately, it had been raining since the morning. The weather forecast predicted continuous heavy rain throughout the day. This is no joke. Doing such a thing in such a downpour, it's the lowest of the low as a parent. Say whatever you want, but you're the ones who need to reflect. This is a good chance to cool your heads. Left outside, Alyssa and Howard were exposed to the rain, naked for the duration of the funeral. Since Howard, who was originally supposed to lead the funeral, was absent, I stepped in as the chief mourner, and the funeral concluded on time. By the time the clothes I had thrown out were found, they were completely soaked and ruined. As a result, Alyssa and Howard had to borrow clothes that relatives had brought as backups, and wore these on their return. But their ordeal was just beginning. Inside the car on the way home, there was silence. Alyssa and Howard, forced to sit together, continually kept their heads down in a gesture of remorse. However, my father, who was driving, seemed indifferent to their display and started a conversation with me. "Candace, once we get home, we should all gather and have a meeting about this matter, don't you think?" Throughout the funeral, I had been holding back my rage. Naturally, I agreed to his proposal, planning to confront Howard thoroughly. After this, the car fell silent again. The only sound was the rain beating on the car roof. Alyssa and Howard awkwardly kept their heads down, just waiting to get home. After a while, we arrived at our family home. Everyone got out of the car and headed inside. But Alyssa and Howard hesitated, not wanting to move. They looked utterly defeated, as if they had given up on everything. "Huh? This car?" I was startled to see a familiar car parked at the entrance. It was Ted's car. He was supposed to be on a business trip until tomorrow and not due back today. Yet there was his car parked outside. Why? As I entered the house with these thoughts, I found Ted and Ryan chatting in the living room. "Ah. There you are. I've been waiting." Ted seemed to behave as if he knew what had happened at the funeral. "Ted, weren't you on a business trip until tomorrow?" "Actually, I never went on a business trip." Hearing this, Alyssa, who entered later, reacted dramatically. "What do you mean by that? Were you cheating on me?" It seemed like Alyssa was desperately trying to turn the situation around by accusing him. Everyone was appalled by her words, and Ted retorted, "Who are you to talk about cheating? You're the one cheating. Enough is enough. Shut up. Why did you lie about the business trip and not come today?" "I knew about you and Howard getting cozy at the funeral today because Ryan told me. So I lied about the business trip to create a situation that would make it easier for you to do your thing." Ted then signaled to Ryan, who had been fiddling with his smartphone. Ryan placed the phone on the table and played an audio recording. "How about we do something secret at the funeral, just between us?" "That's too bold, we'll get caught." "I just love thrilling situations, so let's just do it once." The unmistakable voices of the two coming from the smartphone left me and our parents speechless. We were shocked that Alyssa had such inclinations, and everyone was appalled. "Disgusting, what are you thinking?" "Alyssa, I had suspected you were cheating with Howard. Alyssa's been like this since middle school. I know because I've been dealing with her since then. She's always been getting involved with various guys because she thinks she's cute. She enjoys thrilling situations and doing it in weird places. And she was always hated by everyone afterward. I've been hearing stories like this about her for a long time." As Ryan spoke, Ted stood up, approached Alyssa, pulled a piece of paper from his pocket, and thrust it forcefully at her chest. "We're getting a divorce. I've been gathering evidence with Ryan ever since I suspected your actions. To think you were just using me." Then Ted reached into his pocket again, pulled out another document, and handed it to me. "Candace, you should divorce him too. I'm disappointed in both of them. The more I investigated, the more faults I found. There's no love in them." The document he handed me was a real divorce application. I had been aware of Howard's infidelity, but I hadn't thought about divorce until then. Faced with the actual divorce papers, I felt mixed emotions. But as I thought about Alyssa and Howard's affair, my anger resurfaced. And the word divorce clearly formed in my mind. Maybe divorce really is the best option. For someone who neglects their child for their own desires, they're not a parent at all. At that moment, something inside me snapped. I thought you were a good person at first. But I absolutely despise someone who doesn't love their child. I want a divorce. Like Ted, I slammed the divorce papers against my husband's chest and declared our divorce. Why? It was just a moment of weakness. It's not like it was a real affair. Stop making excuses. I have plenty of evidence, photos, audio, videos. You hurt Candace, who means a lot to me. You're no friend of mine. Ryan then threw photos of the two of them during their secret meetings onto the table in front of us. The photos were clearly dated, and upon closer inspection, the date was the same as when Howard had said he was going out with Ryan. As I looked at the photos, Ryan started playing a video, revealing that they had met in unbelievable places. What's most unbelievable is Alyssa's audacity. You boldly met up at home and didn't get caught. And you were even meeting at Howard's parents' house. Watching the video, it became clear that he was telling the truth. In that moment, instead of anger, I felt overwhelming disgust. I'm appalled. Alyssa has led you to do such things? Howard, what is wrong with you? Well, it turned out surprisingly okay when we tried it. You're the worst. In a moment of anger, I slapped my husband. He held his cheek in shock, and those around us were frozen, witnessing a real chaotic scene. Both my husband and my sister had shrunk in fear, rendered helpless by the situation. While we're at it, I'm going to say everything. Alyssa, you've always liked Howard, haven't you? I haven't forgotten how you came to me in high school, saying you liked Howard. That is. So, after Candace started dating Howard, you approached him, didn't you? You tried to take him from Candace. Stop it. Moreover, you used Ted, who you liked second best, as a tool. Dating and even marrying him. You were actually aiming for Howard. Stop it, I said. It's the truth, right? I heard it all from your friends. Enough already. Unable to endure Ryan's words any longer, my sister lunged at him to shut him up. But my brother-in-law restrained her. Let go, why do I have to be told all this? Don't mess with me. While being held back, my sister struggled. But our father appeared in front of her and slapped her cheek to calm her. Enough already, the things you are being blamed for are your own doing. But, about Howard. Just because you like someone, you think it's okay to take someone else's husband? That's what I'm saying is wrong. And Howard, why did you go along with Alyssa's approach? It's both your responsibilities, so make sure to sign the divorce papers. His words calmed the two down instantly. Previously resistant, they now sat down quietly, showing us expressions of regret. I'm truly sorry, it was all my fault. Please don't go through with the divorce. I really do love Ted. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I was a fool to be swayed by Alyssa. I admit that. I will reflect on this. Please, let's not divorce, I truly love Candace. Impossible. Despite their earnest final words, our minds were unchanged. No matter what they said, our hearts wouldn't change, so my brother-in-law and I spoke in unison. Afterward, feeling they could not reverse the decision on the divorce, they signed the divorce papers. The parents around us felt a sense of resolution. And the atmosphere shifted as if to suggest having coffee. However, one person was still not appeased. Ryan. Don't think you can leave things like this. I will expose everything you have done right here. His eyes were demonic. Showing a fury worse than mine or my brother-in-law's, he intimidated the two. What's it to you? Why do you have to be so angry? I'm the one who's been the most manipulated here, especially by you. Alyssa, and Howard. You two always came to me with your love problems. Claiming your affections for each other, then going off and making misguided marriages. Causing such chaos. What was all my patience for, then? Ridiculous. Ryan, what are you saying? These two have been in love with each other from the start, and despite my advice, they showed no signs of getting together, and then Howard ends up marrying Candace. That can't be true. Why? Why has it come to this? At Ryan's revelation, the two shrank even further. Mentioning things from middle school made them feel embarrassed. Shut up, I was innocent back then, I didn't have the guts to confess. Same here, I was popular but I never confessed to anyone myself. I couldn't confess to the person I really liked. Contrary to their previous expressions, their faces were so red. They might have been painted with red paint. Being talked about their past must have been unbearably embarrassing. Why would you bring up such a topic here? The divorce is already decided, isn't it okay? It's the worst to suddenly be talked about in such an embarrassing way. It's a big deal for me. If it's embarrassing, then it's just right, let's shame you here. Ryan's anger was so heated that no one could stop him. Both sets of parents were just listening dumbfounded, with no gesture of intervention. Also, since Candace and Howard got married, Alyssa has been going to Candace's house frequently, but you secretly met Howard then, didn't you? Huh? You're lying, from that time? Here, this is the proof. Why do you have this photo from that time? It was a coincidence, around the time of their wedding. But anyone would suspect something seeing them walking hand in hand through the hotel district. Shown this photo, my husband looked at me with a panicked expression. He had made me think that he was just led astray by Alyssa. But his face suddenly stiffened with the shock of the ambush. What do you mean? Are you saying you were cheating since then? No, I mean, the fact that you're flustered says it all. I thought the anger had subsided a bit with the divorce being finalized. But with this unexpected information, my anger surged again. And I slammed my hand down in front of my husband to intimidate him. Sorry, it was a momentary lapse. I've liked Alyssa since the past, but I couldn't confess. So I gave up and started dating Candace. Still, I couldn't completely give up. And when Alyssa approached me, I was still unsettled. So you just followed along. You settled for me and dated me. Ridiculous. I truly loved Howard back then. I was so frustrated that tears came out. Knowing that he dated me because he couldn't date my sister and had settled. I realized there was absolutely no sympathy to be had for these two at this moment. But the frustration kept building inside me, and naturally, tears started streaming from the corners of my eyes. Ridiculous, so I was just being used by both of you. Why did you make me have a child? Give me back my child's life, it's all your fault, idiot. I broke down crying on the spot. Feeling used by my sister and husband filled me with a sense of deep disappointment. Ryan comforted me, holding me and saying, "It's okay, now." While wiping my tears, he consoled me. I feel the same as you, Candace, like I was used by them. I don't want to see your faces anymore, get out of here. Hearing his words, I glared at my husband and voiced my feelings as loudly as I could. I will never forgive you, I'll sue you for compensation, so be prepared. My husband, intimidated by my sharp gaze, muttered quietly, "Sorry." With those words, the air in the room turned heavy. And the parents who had witnessed everything looked at the two with disapproval. The two of them, just being there, were overwhelmed by pressure and shame. Unable to stand it any longer, they quickly grabbed their belongings and rushed out of the house. Later, my sister contacted me to apologize, saying, I'm truly sorry, but our parents did not forgive her and she was driven out of the house. And Howard also called his in-laws, but they wouldn't listen and he too was eventually driven out. The two, having nowhere to turn, had rushed into marriage based on past feelings. But once married, apparently their personalities clashed and after a big fight, they divorced, as I heard from a friend. Serves them right, that's what you get for using someone to get married. Really, serves them right. Candace and I were victims too, but Ted, you were the most pitiable. Being used by Alyssa for marriage, especially since you were her second choice. Stop, that's the hardest part to bear. Sorry. Howard cut off ties with his friends and no longer contacted the two. And instead, I became close with them. Then, one day at a drinking party, Ryan gave me a ring. Actually, I've liked Candace for a long time. I wanted to confess, but couldn't. And after you started dating Howard, I supported you from the shadows. But now I can say it. I want to date you, I will never be like Howard. You're late. I sort of knew, thank you. Huh? I felt it when you protected me. I knew you liked me. Ryan blushed slightly and nodded. I smiled back at him, and Ryan slipped the ring on my finger, saying, "Marriage is in the future, this ring is like a promise ring for that vow. So take care of it, I will definitely propose." 3 years later, Ryan and I were engaged, and he proposed properly, leading to our marriage. Ted, inspired by us, found a new partner and they also got married. Now happily going out together as a couple. And when I sued my ex-husband Howard for emotional distress, the claim was accepted, and I received a small amount of compensation. Good for you, even if it's a little, you got some compensation. Really, including the child, I suffered a lot of emotional damage, naturally. After our marriage, Ryan declared he would live with my family. And indeed we lived happily with my parents. Reflecting now, I can't imagine that my ex-husband could have lived this close with my parents. And I feel glad I married Ryan.
My husband has been having an affair. Apparently, he's been giving luxury brand gifts to his mistress. Moreover, he's been using my credit card for these shopping sprees. I've put up with it for the sake of our son, but I can't take it anymore. I can't let this go on. I need to do something. And the one who came to my help was the last person I expected. My name is Alexa, and I'm 35 years old. I've been married to my husband Austin for 10 years. Our son Drake, who we were blessed with, turned 8 this year. Having always enjoyed reading, I am now making a living as a novelist, which was my dream. My debut mystery novel has been a major hit, and I have several serializations each month. Thankfully, my books sell well, and I was quite busy. My husband initially had a job, but he quit as soon as I started earning enough. He spends every day relaxing around at home for the past 2 to 3 years, occasionally going out to play on the slot machines. Despite this, he has unusually dressed up in a suit today. Something is off. Why a suit? So I decided to ask my husband about it. "Austin, it's so unusual of you to wear a suit. Where are you going?" My husband's eyes widened in surprise, but he quickly regained his composure and said,
"I have an interview."
"An interview? For what?"
A job. What else? I thought maybe it's time I started working again."
"I see. Good luck."
"Yeah, I'm off."
At that time, I truly believed that he was going for a job interview. Our son is still little, and I thought that Austin must thought about it for the sake of our future. However, he didn't return until 1 a.m. that night. I happened to be up because I had a deadline coming up, and Austin had fallen asleep on the living room sofa, reeking of alcohol and perfume. In his hand was his smartphone, which was unlocked. Out of curiosity, I peeked into my husband's smartphone. What? What's this? No, I can't believe it. It turns out that my husband was cheating. What's more surprising is that his lover was my close friend, Ashley. They seemed to have gone to a fancy restaurant famous for its beautiful night view. I was so shocked that I felt as if I had been hit with something really hard. No way. Austin is having an affair with Ashley? Why? Ashley has a husband too, doesn't she? I trusted both of them. Faced with an unexpected reality, tears welled up naturally. Not wanting to wake my husband, I tried desperately to hold back my tears. Evidence. Yes, evidence. For now, I sent evidence of the affair to my own smartphone and decided to think about what to do next. The next morning, I casually asked my husband, who was acting normal as usual. Hey Austin, about yesterday.
Yesterday?
You know, you said you had an interview, but you came home late, right? I was just wondering what happened. Then my husband looked away as if trying to think of an excuse.
Actually, I ran into a friend after the interview, so we ended up going for a drink.
A friend? Who?
Someone you don't know. I don't have to explain everything, do I?
Yeah, you're right. As expected, my husband hid the fact that he had met Ashley. It was clear from his attitude that he was having an affair. 1 month after the discovery of my husband's affair, I still didn't know what to do. Up until now, I have not been able to confront my husband about his affair. If I do confirm it, it's obvious that our marriage would not go well in the end. If it was only me, I would have immediately confronted him with evidence of his affair and divorced him already. The only reason I didn't divorce him was for our son, Drake. I couldn't take a father away from him, as he was still only 8 years old. Afterward, Austin took advantage of the fact that I was being confined to my room, working away, and started going out frequently. But this is also a perfect opportunity. I decided to gather evidence of his affair while he was out. What I found in his room were several unfamiliar receipts. Apparently, he had bought luxury branded goods for women. But I couldn't find those things in the room. Of course, I didn't receive them from him either. And there was only one answer to this. Austin is giving Ashley these branded items. But where does he get the money for that? He's unemployed now and living off the allowance I give him every month. He shouldn't have any savings left. Being curious, I decided to tell my husband. In the meantime, I'll call my brother over and have him look after my son. Of course, my brother doesn't know about my husband's infidelity, so I lied to my brother. I'm sorry for calling you over so suddenly.
No, I don't mind. But what's up? You suddenly said, I want you to look after Drake.
Actually, there's something I really need to go shopping for on my own.
Shopping? You've never been materialistic. You usually shop online.
I know, but today I want to go buy something that's only available in the store. So, can you look after Drake?
Well, okay. But don't be too late, okay? Drake will get lonely and miss you.
Yeah, thank you. So, with my brother's cooperation, I succeeded in tailing my husband. He's now walking arm in arm with my best friend Ashley. I knew it, but seeing it with my own eyes was a shock. The two of them entered a luxurious brand shop with joy. That's when I saw something unbelievable. What? You're kidding, right? That's my credit card. Yes, the card my husband was using to pay was the credit card I usually use as a secondary card. I always keep my main card in my wallet, but the secondary card has been left in my drawer. My husband took it without my permission and was using it to pay for Ashley's gift. In the past few months, I've bought monitors and keyboards for work, even furniture, so the amount of money spent on the card itself was a lot. The bank account for both cards are the same, and I have been too busy to check the card details recently. So, that ended up backfiring. I can't believe it. Not only was he cheating, but he was also using my money without my knowledge. My love for my husband was completely gone. Of course, it was my fault for not checking and not noticing, but even so, I couldn't forgive him. I took plenty of pictures of the two of them and went straight home. For the next few days, I immersed myself in thinking of ways to get back at my husband. I checked his PC over and over again when he wasn't around. Since he has his smartphone and PC synchronized, I can easily see his exchanges with Ashley on the PC. Eventually, it turned out that the two of them are going on a trip during the upcoming holidays. A 4-day trip, huh? Yes, this is my only chance. I decided to carry out my revenge at the same time as my husband's affair trip. However, there was one problem. That is the existence of our son. It would be difficult to complete this revenge plan without letting my son know about my husband's affair. So, I decided to ask for my brother's help again. Hey, I hate to ask, but could you look after Drake during the upcoming holidays?
The holidays? You mean all 4 days?
Yes, I have something to take care of.
Something to take care of, huh?
He said this with a hint of meaning in his voice. I was feeling uncomfortable with my brother's attitude when he bluntly said this.
Alexa, stop trying to handle everything on your own.
What do you mean?
Austin's cheating, isn't he?
What? How did you...
I heard it from Drake.
What? Drake? My son had realized about my husband's affair even though he was just a child. I don't know if he understood the situation exactly, but he saw that his father was getting close to someone who wasn't his mother, and that it was hurting me. It seems that my son as a child had sensed this. But I thought I was hiding it so well from Drake. Why?
It means that Austin hurt you enough for Drake to see it. Are you planning to continue staying with a person like him?
But if I divorce Austin, Drake will be sad. As soon as I muttered that, my son, who was supposed to be in the next room, showed up. It's okay, Mom. I'm on your side. Drake, are you sure? I don't need anyone who makes Mom sad. As long as I have Mom, it's okay. Oh, thank you, Drake. And thank you too, brother. Thanks to my son and my brother, I was able to make up my mind to revenge my husband without any hesitation. Drake and I prepared to move out on the day my husband would leave for his affair trip. My brother helped me pack secretly while my husband was gone. And on the night before the holiday, I decided to give my husband one last chance. I asked him directly, who was excited about his trip from tomorrow. Austin, what's with the luggage? Why are you preparing a suitcase?
Oh, this? Actually, I'm going on a trip with some friends from tomorrow.
A trip? Did you mention that?
It was a sudden plan. It's not a big deal. I'm going with the allowance I receive every month.
Clearly not wanting to be questioned further, my husband was radiating a don't talk to me anymore aura. However, I didn't care about his situation. I confronted him with a low voice that I hardly used before. Hey, are you sure it's just with your friends? My husband visibly panicked and his shoulders twitched. Still, he desperately stuck to his lie.
Oh, of course. You've been quite persistent, haven't you?
All right, I understand. Enjoy your trip with your friends.
I was going to enjoy it, even if you didn't tell me to.
Well, just don't get too carried away, all right? Having said that, I left my husband's room. Honestly, if he had told me the truth here, I was considering settling amicably by just claiming alimony and child support. Despite being cheated on, he's someone I once fell in love with. When my novel didn't sell, it was because of him that I was able to keep going. I don't want to truly hate him, or to even hold a grudge against him. Still, given what's happened, I can't be that lenient towards him. For the sake of my son and my own future, I have to put an end to things with him. There's no need for me to hold back anymore, since he just kept on lying behind my back. Early next morning, my husband had already left for his trip. I opened the drawer and confirmed that he had taken my credit card as usual. I immediately contacted the card company, reported the card for being lost, and requested the card to be deactivated. My son woke up, so I greeted him with a good morning. Then he said with a beaming smile, "Mom, it's today, right?" "Huh?" "The move! We're going to our new house today, right?" Looking at my son's sparkling eyes, the last bit of anxiety inside me disappeared. Oh, Drake. All right, I've stopped the credit card, so let's move to our new house. Yeah, that's right. I can't wait for our new home. With the help of my brother, our move went smoothly. My sons and my belongings were moved to our new home, while my husband's belongings were sent off to a certain location. The next day, as I was relaxing in our new home with my son and my brother, my husband called. Hello?
Alexa?
What is it?
Well, actually, the trip is costing more than I expected. Could you possibly transfer me a little money?
He's probably having trouble paying for things on his trip because I froze the credit card. He won't outright say it's about the card and asks for money indirectly, which is disgusting. Didn't you say you were going within your own budget? Sorry, but I don't have any money to lend you.
Oh, don't be like that. If you don't help me, I'll be the only one who can't enjoy the trip.
You'll be the only one? Don't you mean the both of you? To that question, my husband let out a dumbfounded, "Huh?" You're on a trip, after all. You'd want to show Ashley only the good parts, right? But sorry, the card you took is no longer valid, so you'll have to give up.
What are you talking about, Alexa? Ashley? And the card?
Pretending to not know is useless. I mean, you're panicking too much.
It's because you're saying things that don't make sense. I don't know anything about a card.
Enough. I already know that you've been cheating on me with my best friend, Ashley.
What?
Did you really think that I had no idea? Are you an idiot? It's obvious.
No, this isn't what you think. It's not like I'm cheating.
I was so furious that my husband was still trying to make excuses at this point. Not caring that my brother and son were there next to me, I let out all the anger I had been holding back. Stop making excuses. You had a family and you had an affair with another woman? On top of that, using someone else's card. Do you realize how despicable your actions have been?
Alexa, let's calm down for now.
Huh? There's no way I can stay calm when I have to deal with the person I hate the most in the world. Don't you think so? And just so you know, I have no intention of forgiving you or helping you. You and the woman you're with can go to hell for all I care. Never show your face to Drake and I again. Saying that, I hung up on my husband. Then his mistress, Ashley, called me. Hey, Alexa, what the hell did you do? Ah, Ashley, long time no see. How's the trip with my husband? Shut up! Explain yourself! What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. You sent Austin's belongings to my house, didn't you? Indeed, when we moved, I sent my husband's belongings to Ashley. But Ashley is a married woman, so of course her husband is at home. That's exactly why I sent all of Austin's belongings to her house, including a long letter explaining about everything. She screamed at me over the phone, her voice breaking. This is not a joke. What did you do? My husband found out and now he's furious. Well, it serves you right for having an affair while being married. You're supposed to be my friend. This is dirty. You're the worst. I misjudged you. Excuse me? That's my line. My best friend was having an affair with my husband, you know. How can I forgive that? Who do you think was rude first, huh? I wasn't serious. It was just for fun. There's no way I settle for a jobless loser like him. I don't care whether you were serious or not. I'm about to get a divorce anyway. Anyway, you did have an affair, and that's a fact. I will never forgive you. I will demand a lot of compensation, so brace yourself. Compensation? What's that? I didn't hear anything about that. Well, of course. You did what you deserve. Wait! I'm a housewife. I can't pay any compensation. I don't care. Either figure it out yourself or beg your husband. Well, I doubt that would work, though. Wait! Alexa! Hey, wait! Goodbye. I hung up without listening to her and blocked her number. Afterwards, I got a divorce through my lawyer and demanded compensation from my ex-husband and Ashley. In addition to paying the child support, I also demanded repayment for the credit card charges he made without my consent. Having debt from paying the compensation, Ashley's husband demanded for divorce, and apparently she's kicked out from their home. She tried to rely on her parents, but given the circumstances, they turned her away. Having been turned away by her husband, I heard that Ashley now lives at where she works at, and she does night jobs working in a bar. Austin tried to rely on Ashley as well, but Ashley was furious because she had to get a divorce because of him. She immediately cut ties with my ex-husband, and that's how they ended their relationship. My ex-husband is currently working several part-time jobs and lives paycheck to paycheck. He was unemployed for a long time, so it won't be easy for him to find a decent, proper job. Of course, if he ever falls behind in his alimony or child support payments, I intend to question him and collect the amount from him in any way I can. As for me, I'm living a peaceful life in a new home with my son. My son's growth is remarkable, and every day is truly exciting. I hope to continue to give my son lots of love without making him sad ever again. Long time no see. Have you been doing well? My estranged mom and my husband had come to my dad's funeral. You've got some nerve showing up here after what you've done. She didn't react at all to my sarcastic comment. Well, it's my husband's funeral. Of course I'm going to attend. I came here for the inheritance, haha. But I couldn't stop laughing at what my mom had said. I'm afraid there's no inheritance for you, though. My name is Kate, a 32-year-old office worker. I have been married to my husband, Jacob, for 2 years. We were both in charge of the same client at our work. Every time we met, we grew closer, which eventually led to us dating. One day, he confessed his feelings to me and we started to officially go out. But I was hesitant to go out with him at first. The reason for that was because he was 6 years younger than me. Are you sure you want an old lady like me as your girlfriend? When I asked him that, he looked straight into my eyes and said, I don't care about age.
I love you, Kate.
I was touched by his straightforward opinion and fell for him. From there, our relationship progressed smoothly and he proposed to me. We immediately went to meet his parents. His parents were very kind and accepted me with open arms. They were cheerful and positive, just like him, and I immediately liked them. Next, we visited my family home and I introduced him to my parents. Oh, he's such a young boy.
But he's very polite and pleasant, isn't he?
My parents liked him right away. Jacob also said,
Your parents are very kind. They're great.
He was very positive about my parents. And so we got married without any issues. After getting married, we both continued working while sharing house chores.
Kate, your cooking is really delicious.
Really? That makes me happy.
Did your mother teach you this?
No, I learned it myself. My mom isn't much of a cook, I guess. She was particular about things like salads and oil, though.
Oh, really? So she's a health guru, huh?
Well, she used to be a model.
What? Really?
Did I not mention that? When she was in high school until she was about 19, she was a teen model. When she was 19, she got pregnant and married my dad. She quit modeling for a while, but after I started elementary school, she worked as a model for about 10 years.
Wow, I didn't know that. I thought she was very beautiful, but it makes sense if she was a model.
Tell her yourself next time. I'm sure she'll be thrilled.
All right. Let's go to your parents' house next time.
Sounds good. Let's go on our next day off. My husband always made an effort to visit my parents, which I appreciated a lot. Thanks to him, I could see my parents regularly. In that way, my marriage was going very well. However, something terrible happened. My dad was in an accident and has been in a wheelchair since then. Kate, can you come again today? I have a caregiver during the day, but it's tough having to take care of him all on my own at night. I see, okay. I'll drop by after work. I was very worried about my dad. And to be honest, I was concerned about leaving my mom, who's not very good at housework, to take care of him on her own. I told my husband I would go to my parents' house after work to help take care of Dad. To my surprise, he offered to pick me up and accompany me to my parents' house. Thank you, Jacob. You're a lifesaver.
Don't mention it. Your parents are in trouble, so we have to help.
At that moment, I thought that my husband was an angel sent from God. Ah, Kate, I'm glad you're here. And thank you so much for coming, Jacob. I'm sorry to make it all a hassle for you.
No problem at all. Please don't worry about it.
Where's Dad? He's sleeping in his room right now, but I think he'll want to use the bathroom soon. Alright, I'll go check on him. Thank you.
Is there anything I can help you with?
Oh, there are some heavy things I like you to carry. Ever since my husband started to use his wheelchair, there's no one here to carry any heavy things, you see.
I see. That makes sense. Of course, leave it to me.
My husband seemed happy to take on my mother's request. I was glad he came along. Dad, you're awake.
Thanks for coming, Kate. I heard your voices and woke up.
I see. Do you need to use the restroom? I can help you get there.
I think I'll take you up on that. I'm truly sorry for the trouble.
What are you talking about? I was able to go to college because of you. It's time for me to repay back the kindness, you know.
Thank you, Kate.
After finishing taking care of Dad, my husband and I returned home together. When we got home, my husband made a certain proposal.
Hey, what do you think about us moving in with your parents?
What?
I mean, to be honest, it must be hard for your mom and dad to live on their own in their current situation.
Yeah, but are you okay with that? They aren't your parents, you know. Won't you feel stressed?
Not at all. Your parents are really kind, so I have no problem living with them.
Jacob. I was really grateful for my husband's proposal. Honestly, I was thinking the same thing. My mom and dad have a 15-year age gap. My dad was a company CEO, and he met my mom at a party where wealthy people gathered. He fell in love with my beautiful mom at first sight, and that's how they started our family. They got married when my mom became pregnant. Since mom is not good at housework, her mother and my grandmother often came to our house to cook and clean. I remember seeing my grandmother cooking when I was a child. My mom had a unique value that as long as she was beautiful, she didn't have to do anything else, so she really didn't do any housework. I started living on my own when I went to university, so I learned to do housework and cook and can do most things on my own. But mom couldn't do anything, so she couldn't take care of my dad on her own. That's why, if possible, I wanted to be by my dad's side and support him. There's another reason why I want us to live together.
What? What is it?
Actually, I'm pregnant.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Seriously? I'm going to be a dad!
That's right.
In that case, it's even more reasonable to live at your parents' house.
I guess you're right. I'll contact my mom right away. When I told my mom that, she said, "That would be a great help," and agreed to let us move in. So my husband and I moved into my parents' house and began living together there. I decided to become a full-time housewife. While caring for my dad at home, I successfully prepared for the birth of our baby. If anything happened, my mom would take me to the hospital, and even though she can't cook, she would buy whatever I needed from the supermarket. That alone was a huge help, and it was a relief to live at home where I wouldn't be alone. My husband seemed to communicate well with my parents. He would have conversations with my dad, being worried about his health, and he would have enjoyable conversations with my mom. Seeing this, I thought I had made the right decision in marrying him. Jacob, can you accompany me to the store? There seems to be cheaper ingredients at a supermarket a bit further away today, so I was thinking we could take the car.
Of course. Leave it to me.
My husband and mom got along like real parents and children, and they often go shopping together on weekends. As my tummy got bigger with the baby, it's been quite hard for me to go out, so I'm very grateful that they take the initiative to do the shopping. Time passed and I gave birth to our baby smoothly. It was a healthy baby boy. All of our family members were delighted and congratulated us on the birth of our son. Since we have a boy, he might be able to take over my dad's company in the future. I was looking forward to a lively and even more enjoyable life with my family. That was what I thought, but I was about to encounter an unbelievable situation. It happened on a day when I was going to take my son shopping. I wanted to buy some baby items, but the store I had in mind was far from home, so I decided to drive there. Instead of telling my husband what I wanted and risking him of getting the wrong items, I figured it would be quicker if I bought them myself. So I asked my husband to look after my dad and decided to go shopping. However, after about 10 minutes of driving, I realized I had forgotten my wallet. I quickly turned the car around and drove back home. As I was about to go upstairs to my room to get my wallet, I heard a strange noise coming from my mom's room. Currently, my dad, who's in a wheelchair, has a room on the first floor of my parents' house, while the rooms of my husband and I, and my mom, are all on the second floor. My husband and mom were not in the living room on the first floor. At this point, I had a terrible feeling. I quietly approached my mom's room. Then I heard a creaking noise and heavy breathing, and I knew exactly what was going on. I began recording on my phone and opened the door. "What are you both doing?"
Whoa!
Ah! The surprised voices of my mom and my husband echoed in the room, both of them naked. In other words, they were in the middle of making love to each other. They quickly started to dress themselves. "What is this? This is an affair, isn't it?" When I confronted the two of them, they were unapologetic. "Yes, it is. But well, it can't be helped. Jacob said he prefers me after all."
Sorry, Kate. Your mother is much more attractive, you know.
Excuse me? Apparently, my husband prefers older women. So, when we were dating, he didn't mind the age difference at all, and greater the age difference, he even found it more appealing. Do you think you'll be forgiven for this? Well, it can't be helped. Whether we're forgiven or not doesn't matter to us.
Yeah, we're going to move out and live together.
So, you're saying we're getting divorced?
Yes, of course.
Then I'll prepare the divorce papers right away. I was surprisingly calm as I proceeded with the conversation. I guess it was because I knew I had to stay strong for my dad, who needed to be taken care of, and my newborn son. So, Mom, you're getting divorced from Dad, right? I'll bring the divorce papers for you too. When I said that, my mom made a shocking statement. I'm not getting a divorce. What? I'm not divorcing your dad, but I am leaving this house. Wait, just hold on. There's a limit to playing around like this. I'm not joking. I'm not leaving until I get my fair share of this house's assets. Yep, that's right, until your dad passes away. What are you saying? I'm not leaving until I get his inheritance. Surprisingly, my mom refused to divorce in order to receive my dad's inheritance. Indeed, if they proceed with the divorce and not stay married, she must pay the secured portion to inherit it. How disgusting are you? I said, glaring at my mom with my fists clenched. I'm just choosing the option that benefits me more. Regardless of whether it's an old man, I'll take all the money I can get, and then I'll be with a young and wonderful boy. I was beyond angry, and I was simply appalled. Jacob, I'm divorcing you no matter what.
Yeah, sure. But, depending on the circumstances, I might refuse to it.
What? What conditions?
That you and your dad accept your mom's wishes to not divorce your dad.
Huh?
Since it's you, Kate, you might take some measures, right? So since you and I are getting a divorce, I want you to keep the promise that your mom and dad remain married.
You've got to be kidding. There's no way I can accept those terms.
Then I won't divorce either, and I won't pay child support.
You can't do that.
Well, what will you choose?
My husband and mom looked triumphant. Anyway, I have to tell my dad about this. I can't decide this without considering his feelings. Saying that, I ran down to the first floor. It seemed my dad was awake, and it seemed he had heard the conversation.
Kate, you don't need to worry about me. Divorce him right away.
No, but then you and Mom won't be able to divorce.
You don't need to worry about me. That's why you should divorce that man right away.
My dad said that, looking me straight in my eyes. He probably has some kind of plan. With that in mind, I decided to do as my dad said. And I accepted the terms my husband proposed for the divorce. My husband and my mother, laughing loudly, said, "Let us know when Dad dies, okay?" And then the two of them left. I was so angry I felt like I was going insane, but the one who was truly suffering was my dad. I'm sorry, Dad. Jacob did something unforgivable.
Don't worry about it. They'll probably see hell soon enough.
I didn't understand what my dad was thinking, but after he explained it to me, I understood immediately. If we did this, we could definitely give my mom and Jacob a taste of hell. After that, I decided to live my life without worrying about those two. During the day, I hired a helper and started working again. My son grew up healthily, and I got better at taking care of my dad. My dad seemed happy to spend time with his grandchild. I hoped my son would grow up to be like my dad. As I lived like this, 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. A little while ago, my dad's health deteriorated, and he had to be hospitalized. And then, his health didn't recover, and he unfortunately passed away. I had been prepared for this, so I was calmer than I had anticipated. I immediately began arranging for the funeral. My dad was loved by many people, so a lot of people attended his funeral. However, among the attendees, I ran into the people I least wanted to see. Long time no see. How have you been?
I came as promised.
It was none other than my mom and my ex-husband. What are you doing here? I came to keep my promise. My mom and my ex-husband had shown up at my dad's funeral. How could you show your faces here after everything you've done? Kate, most men and women are attracted to each other by instinct, so it can't be helped. Reason doesn't apply to those who are attracted to each other. She didn't seem to care about any of my sarcastic comments. Then why are you at my dad's funeral? You could have spent your time alone with him. Well, it's my husband's funeral after all. It's only natural to attend, right? And as I said earlier, I need to fulfill my promise. I came to claim my inheritance. Now tell me how much I'm getting. I couldn't help but laugh at my mom's statement. I'm sorry, but you're not getting any inheritance. What?
What are you talking about? She should be entitled to a portion of the estate.
I'm sorry, but my mom and dad have already divorced. What? I didn't agree to a divorce. Have you forgotten that you once handed a divorce paper to my dad? He kept it for a time like this. After you two left, my dad submitted the divorce paper. You're no longer with my dad, which means you're not eligible for his inheritance. As I said this, the color drained from my mom and my ex-husband's faces. No, you're lying.
That's impossible.
Now that you understand, could you please leave? You understand the situation, right? Many people who respected my dad began to gather around us. They all despised the two who had betrayed and hurt my dad. Realizing the situation, my mom and my ex-husband left the funeral at once. According to the stories, they were living a luxurious lifestyle that didn't really match with my ex-husband's income, and it seems that they even used up all the money my mom had saved. They had even started taking out loans, and it was at this breaking point that they learned of my dad's death. They intended to use the inheritance to repay their debts, but their plans failed, and they received nothing. Now, no one knows their whereabouts. For me, it doesn't really matter since it's none of my business. On the other hand, I started working at my dad's company a few years ago, and had taken over as the CEO before my dad passed away. Now I'm protecting my dad's company as a CEO, as well as raising my beloved son. I would like my son to take over the company someday, but if he finds something else he wants to do, I plan to fully support his dreams. Right now, I want to watch my small and adorable son grow up. Narrator's comment. Cheating with your wife's mother. That's the lowest of the low, right? Even if one prefers older partners, that's unforgivable. Kate's mother is also the worst kind of woman. Perhaps the lowest of the low are attracted to each other? But in the end, it's satisfying to know that the two of them ended up drowning in debt. Kate should keep up the good work as the CEO and spend happy days with her son.
My ex-husband showed up at my parents' house. Could you please pack up and leave right away? Excuse me? Ignoring my stunned silence, my ex-husband continued. My wife is pregnant. It's your sister. That's right. My ex-husband left me for my sister 5 years ago. For the sake of the baby, we want to set up a good educational environment. We can make much better use of this house than a lifelong single like you. You're infertile and nobody needs you. You get it? Stop making a fuss and just go. I sighed and shook my head. Impossible. What? You... seriously? Don't you know who lives in this house now? Immediately after that, a large figure appeared from behind me. The moment my ex-husband saw it, he turned pale and began to tremble. Why? My name is Catherine, an office worker who turned 35 this year. Thankfully, it seems that I am somewhat valued in my company, and among my peers, I have managed to make a decent progression in my career. Although I am leading a steady life now, it was not without many twists and turns. Undoubtedly, one of the most significant events in recent years would be my divorce. The cause was his infidelity. 5 years ago, my then husband, David, ran off with another woman. Surprisingly, the woman he ran off with was my own younger sister. Looking back, my sister has always been the type to covet what I had, so I suppose she's consistent in that way. However, it doesn't change the fact that what they did was beyond any reasonable behavior. At that time, David and I were co-workers who had started our jobs at the same time. David was gentle and very observant. I, who was young at the time, was attracted to these aspects of David. David also took a liking to me, and our relationship developed into a romantic one. After dating for a while, I introduced David to my family. As we were dating with marriage in mind, we both decided that it was proper to do so. At that time, my younger sister just happened to be visiting home. Upon seeing David's face, Samantha, my sister, immediately exclaimed, "What?" This was because Samantha and David had attended the same university and had known each other already. After that, it became more common for Samantha, David, and me to go shopping together. It was a delightful time. Even after David and I got married, the interaction with Samantha continued. However, as we hung out in the group more often, I began to feel increasingly uneasy. David and Samantha would get excited about topics only they knew about, and they started going out together secretly. "Did you go out with Samantha yesterday? I would have loved to join you guys." Yeah, next time. Alright. I had a strange feeling about this. Then, one day, a co-worker from the company where David and I worked invited us for a meal. Delighted, I accepted the invitation, not knowing that I would soon learn a shocking truth. Apparently, David had been seen entering a hotel, arm in arm with a woman who was not me. When I asked for the woman's description, I found out that it was Samantha. Although I didn't want to believe it, they even showed me a photo, leaving me with no choice but to accept the truth. I got the photo data from my co-worker and decided to confront David about it on the same day. "What is the meaning of this?" You see..." David kept mumbling, his attitude non-committal. "So you've been betraying me all along, huh? You two were laughing behind my back, right? Did you enjoy it?" No matter what I asked, David said nothing. He just kept his head down in silence. David disappeared the next day. When I woke up in the morning, David was nowhere to be found. I couldn't believe it and called Samantha, but she didn't answer. It was 3 days later that I found out Samantha and David were together. A filled-out divorce paper was sent to the house where I lived with David, and about the same time, I received an email from Samantha. The email from Samantha simply read, "I will be happy with David." Naturally, I couldn't accept it. But even if I wanted to protest, I didn't know where they had gone, and I couldn't get in touch with them. Furthermore, it seemed that David had sent his resignation letter to our workplace by mail, so I also lost that connection. Having no other choice, I decided to agree to the divorce. For a while after that, I couldn't recover. I couldn't cope with the fact that my own sister and my husband had eloped. But I couldn't stay depressed forever. I decided to channel my frustration and resentment into my work. When I was engrossed in my work, I could forget about David and Samantha. That strategy worked, and my contribution to the company was recognized, and I was given a position. I was blessed with new relationships, and 5 years after Samantha and David eloped, I can say that I am leading a successful life. One day, something happened. That day was a day off from work, so I woke up later than usual. Thinking I needed to make breakfast, I got up from bed when my smartphone, which I had placed by my pillow, rang. It was a phone call. The screen showed it was an unknown number. I usually wouldn't answer, but maybe because I had just woken up, I impulsively answered. Hello? Who is this? Ah, Catherine! Long time no see. It's me, David. How have you been? I'm glad you're still using this phone number. To my surprise, the one who called was my ex-husband, David. I was so surprised that I almost slipped off the bed. What? David? Why? Why? That's cold. We're ex-spouses. We should keep in touch. David said that, laughing as if nothing was wrong. His attitude as if nothing happened reminded me of the anger I thought I had forgotten. What do you mean, ex-spouses? Don't mess around. You have a lot of nerve to contact me so brazenly. What do you want? Well, calm down. You haven't changed at all. His nonchalant tone irritated me even more. David, perhaps noticing this, finally got to the point. So, yeah, you're living in your parents' house now, right? Could you pack up and leave as soon as possible? Your sister and I have decided to live there. I had no idea what he was talking about. What kind of thinking would lead to that? Actually, we got married and recently had a child. We want to provide a good educational environment for our child. Of course you won't refuse, right? I mean, I'm actually being considerate here. If you keep staying in your parents' house, you won't be able to remarry. I started to get a headache. I wish he wouldn't say such foolish things. Indeed, as David says, I have returned to my parents' house. I don't know where he got that information, but it's correct. No, of course I refuse. Why do I have to vacate my parents' house for the likes of you? When I said that, David seemed offended and replied in a bit of a harsh tone. Oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, there's no way you, a 35-year-old with infertility, could remarry in the first place. When I was married to David, I never got pregnant. He must be referring to that when he mentioned infertility, but it's a nasty way to put it. Is that all you want to say? I absolutely won't give up this house. Then I hung up the phone unilaterally. I didn't want to talk to David any more than that. But he's too self-centered. After eloping due to an affair, now he wants to take the house too. I hope he gives up with this, but who knows what will happen. A few days passed after that. That day, I was busy from morning and finally managed to take a lunch break just past 2 p.m. I finished lunch at my favorite diner near the office, and when I entered the building entrance to return to the office, I spotted a familiar figure. You've got to be kidding me! Why are you here? David was there. He gained so much weight compared to 5 years ago, but without a doubt, the figure standing there was David. I tried to hide instantly. But before I could, he found me. David exclaimed, "Ah!" and rushed towards me in a flutter. "Ah, there you are! I've been waiting forever. About the thing we were talking about the other day, when can you move out? I'd like you to leave by next month if possible." Like I said, I refused that request. And it's unacceptable that you came all the way to my workplace. Just leave! David continued to talk, looking irritated, though his expression was a smile. There you go again. No matter how you think about it, it's obvious that it would be better for our family and the baby on the way to live with your parents than for you, a single woman. Isn't that right? This is pointless. I felt a sort of fear from David, who kept insisting no matter how many times I refused. You're so annoyingly persistent. No matter how much you ask, it's impossible. You chose to have an affair, you chose to elope, so you can live somewhere else on your own from now on. When I said that, David furrowed his brow in irritation and raised his voice. Listen, the only reason I had an affair in the first place was because you were infertile. If you could have had children, I wouldn't have had an affair. It's all your fault. So take responsibility and at least provide a place to live. I was so stunned that I was speechless. To say that my infertility was the reason he had an affair was a gross shifting of blame. Are you seriously saying that? I have work, so I'm leaving now. David seemed like he still had something to say, but it seemed he finally noticed the surrounding gazes, and he said, "Just remember this," before leaving the entrance. I thought that David had finally given up, but I was naive to think so. A week had passed after David came to my workplace. When I finished work and was relaxing at home watching TV, the doorbell suddenly rang. I didn't have any visitors scheduled. Regardless, I decided to look into the intercom monitor. David and my sister were standing there. I wanted them to stop already. I quickly headed to the entrance and forcefully opened the door. "Ah, Catherine, have you packed? I didn't get any contact, so I came directly." "Wow, it's been so long, sis. You heard from David, right? I'm pregnant. I'll let you spoil the baby once it's born." I conspicuously sighed at their audacity. "What's wrong? Are you tired?" "Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, listen. Having a baby is great, but we don't have money. So, we'll live here, okay?" My sister looked up at me pleadingly as she said this. And then David spoke. "That's right. I realized recently, this house isn't yours, right? Are your parents home? I'd like to talk to them. It's their first grandchild, so they're definitely going to accept us." I couldn't help but laugh at his words. I couldn't believe they didn't know. "Why are you laughing? You're so rude. Hurry up and bring out Mom and Dad." "Huh? Don't you really know? They are not here anymore." They are not. Neither of my parents live here anymore. After I divorced David and returned to my parents' house, they gifted this house to me while they were still alive. And now, my parents are living a retired life in the countryside on my mother's side. So, the owner of this house is me. Upon hearing this, both Samantha and David opened their eyes wide. "Got it? This house is my house, so I have all the decision-making rights." Even though I clearly said that, David still persisted. If that's the case, Catherine can live here and we'll live together, right? Let's get along just like before, the three of us. Yes, that's a good idea." "Ah, that's a good idea. It must be lonely for you to live in such a large house all by yourself, right? If we live together, everyone will be happy." Just as I was about to refute the outrageous proposal of these two, a voice came. "What's happening?" "Oh, it's you. I'm sorry for the noise. This is my ex-husband and my sister, whom I told you about the other day." The one who addressed me was my current husband, and in his arms was our daughter. My husband muttered, "I see," and greeted David and Samantha, who were in the midst of chaos. "Good evening. I'm Catherine's husband, and this is our daughter. Isn't she adorable?" Both David and Samantha were opening and closing their mouths in surprise. They must have been shocked. The truth is, I'm remarried. About a year after my divorce from David, I met my current husband through a friend. Things went smoothly with him, and we got married less than 6 months after we started dating. Soon after, I became pregnant with my daughter, and now I'm working and handling my duties as a housewife. Thanks to my husband's help with housework and childcare, I've been able to continue working without neglecting my job and have been promoted steadily. I think you understand now, but there's no room for you two here. My husband, our daughter, and me. We're a family of 3 living happily together.
What? Catherine, weren't you infertile? This can't be. No way.
David sat down on the spot, holding his head in his hands. What's this? It's not fair that my older sister gets to marry such a handsome man. It's so unfair. As she said this, Samantha began to stomp her feet in frustration. My husband looked down at her with a cold gaze and said, "Given these circumstances, please leave. If you attempt to approach our family again, we will call the police. Understood?" Perhaps scared by my husband's forcefulness and the mention of police, David and Samantha ran away with their faces turned pale. From that day on, neither David nor Samantha appeared before me again. It seemed that the two, desperate for money, tried to reach out to David's parents, but they had been disowned due to the scandal 5 years prior, so they were quickly turned away. It was to be expected. This is a story I heard from a mutual friend from David and me, but apparently David is once again involved in an affair and is now in the midst of a divorce crisis. And the reason was quite surprising. In reality, Samantha was not pregnant. It seems she had lied in order to find a way back home. And David, it appears, did not know that Samantha was not actually pregnant, so he too had been deceived. Naturally, such a lie was soon discovered. David had run away with Samantha because he wanted a child, but if Samantha was not pregnant, she became unnecessary to him. David keeps having affairs because he wants a child. However, it's unlikely that David would ever have a child. He's probably infertile. I'm not a doctor, so I can't say for sure, but considering the circumstances, it seems highly likely. I wonder when David will realize. Or maybe he's finally realized. In any case, it's no longer my concern. One day, I received a letter from David. I was perplexed but decided to check the contents with my husband just in case. The letter was filled with things like, I was diagnosed as infertile when I went to the hospital for an examination, and I regret running away 5 years ago. It also stated that he wanted to start over with me. Of course, I ignored the letter. My husband, in a fit of anger, tore the letter to shreds. Whether he gave up on reconciliation because he didn't get a response, or he didn't expect a response from the start, no more letters came from David. He was a selfish and pathetic man to the very end. I should forget about a man like that and live my own life. Now, I'm living with a kind and considerate husband and my precious daughter who's growing cuter day by day. I'll do anything to protect this happiness I've finally grasped. I swore that to myself.